Can I see it? Hello and welcome back to the European Championships 2018. We have made it to the final round of day one, Swiss round number 8.
That's right. This is our last round for today, and then we're going to be having a cut before we move into the last 3 rounds of Swiss tomorrow before we cut into our top 64.
Yeah, absolutely. So all of the players who are going to kind of be out of the contention at that point will be told to go play public events.
Yeah, it's like, guys, sorry, this year your dream is over.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to come back and try again next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
This round, we've got a great feature match for you guys.
Yeah.
We have Lorenzo Roma, and he's going to be facing off against Federico Zoppini.
Yep, absolutely. So two people here who are very much used to the feature match table. What can I say? They have both played quite a lot.
Well, you may have caught from some of the Duel Links coverage that we did as well. Lorenzo was also involved in that as well. So
yeah, he was.
That was a lot of fun recording that. He was a good sport about it as well.
Yeah.
So actually, for this last round, we're going to be showing you a Goki mirror. But we did decide to spice things up a little bit with our stats that we can show. So we can talk a little bit about how Goki's been performing against the other decks in the field, if you kind of want an idea of
how strong
it actually is.
Yeah. So let's start right from the top. So I'm going to rattle off quite a few statistics here. Do stop me if
something interesting comes up. Yep.
So there's a lot of kind of random decks. So ABC, Altergeist, Burning Abyss, Dinosaur, Element Saber, Gem Knight, Heroes. All these are over 50% win rates for the
That's
Goki.
actually not true. Against Altergeist, it's 49%.
49%, pretty close to 50. However, there's a sudden drop when you get to Infernoid. So it has a 33% win rate against Infernoid, but that's only with 3 games. So
so it's not like a huge sample to pull from that, because I saw it in a minute. I was like, oh, there's something that gets it.
Something that beats Goki. It's Infernoid. So the answer is, if you'd have played 10 rounds of Infernoids, then you'd have been fine.
Maybe. It's only, we have such a small sample, it's kind of hard to draw from that. But
exactly.
As you go down the list.
Yeah, it's the same thing continues. So Invoke Mech Knight is quite a number of games, 34 games, 54%.
Actually, Paleozoic.
Yeah, Mermail. And then, we get down to another kind of drastic one. So against the other decks, the ones that we haven't categorized, that's a 67%. But Paleozoics, specifically, in 18 games, it's only a 23% win rate.
So Paleozoic is smashing Goki.
Yeah, in those 18 games, very much so.
That's super interesting as an outsider choice. Because we saw the one feature that we had with Paleozoic, it got took apart by the Sky Striker deck, but to see that it's performing
well against Goki,
quite strong against Goki, is definitely something to give second thought.
Yeah, I actually had Yuri Landsman, our first, our feature match, for Paleozoics, and he's won every other round.
Is it apart from the one time we got him
one time we had him on the live stream?
That guy has really bad luck on our live coverage.
Yeah, he really, really does. And then as we continue down the list, it's more of the same.
Pendulum
50%.
Magician is also... Pendulum Magician is actually favored by 6% in the Goki matchup.
Yeah, so everything else is kind of over 50%, quite strong against stuff like Spiral and the Trickstar Mech Knight, 57%. But yeah, as you say, Pendulum Magician, there's only been 33 games, but 44% win ratio for Goki.
Yeah, it's pretty close. It's still slightly tipped, and it's super interesting, as we were saying before, when you go for an extra link and you can't play any cards, how the Pendulum Magician deck is playing, but apparently it's still edging those wins out.
But I wish I could just kind of implant this into you guys' brains so you could see just how many other decks, not the other category of decks, but how many other decks Goki just have a better win rate against. There's only like 3 decks or something like that on this list.
There's a handful, like against True Draco, for example, on your list. There's been 64 games, and True Draco is favored by just under 1%.
Yeah, but in general, Goki's looking like a pretty good pick for the event.
Yeah, it seems like it was a very strong deck. Of the 173 competitors who decided to queue up today with Goki.
Yeah, the key to this is that these stats, although they're great at kind of getting a general idea, it doesn't mean that one Infernoid guy isn't going to go 18-0.
Yeah, it could happen. Again, when you got decks that are so fringe, the percentages get kind of spiked by that.
Yep.
So we're trying to take a look at, give you guys information about some of the larger represented decks.
Yeah,
How about we talk a bit about the players in general?
So Federico Zoppini has not played very much this season. He's only played 3 tournaments, but they're all quite big ones. One is the Italian National Championships. One is YCS London, and then one is the second YCS Prague that we had last year. and he has a 69% win rate, which is that's
across
a lot.
across YCS, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
and national championships, that's a good ratio.
There's no regionals there. That means that he has been consistently performing at almost the highest level of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Without the additional practice that comes from going to regionals, because you'd be surprised how much you improve just going to regionals and grinding those games against people and just getting more and more used to it. Even if the opponents aren't necessarily statistically as strong as some of these other players, you still get hands-on experience of actually playing in a tournament setting, and that actually puts a lot of work in for the players.
Yeah, not as strong as flying to Christopher Nielsen's house in Denmark and playing him for 2 weeks, though.
In the hyperbolic time chamber.
In the hyperbolic time chamber, yeah. So we also have Lorenzo's stats, which are even slightly more impressive. So with 9 tournaments, he has a 76% win ratio. That's pretty strong.
That's strong, and he has been attending a lot of regionals.
Yeah, a lot of regionals over in Germany, and then 3 YCSs during the last season, 4 YCSs, sorry, during the last season. And then also he came to the UK National Championships.
And he's super high ranked in Duel Links from what I've heard.
Yeah, so he was one of our Duel Links players, and he is actually really high ranked in Duel Links.
So actually, looking at the hard stats, it would suggest that Lorenzo might be slightly favoured simply on the amount of grinding he's done this season, even though he's playing a 50-50 mirror. So the dice roll obviously a big factor in this, because Goki's, is he going to play for an opponent's extra link?
Yeah.
Probably not so much.
Yeah.
But I guess then, based on the raw stats, Lorenzo, for me, would be the favourite pick for this one.
Yeah, well, our players are ready. So one fact we do know is that Goki is going to win, but which pilot is going to win? Thomas Rose and Oliver Gurman are going to take us through it.
Take us away, boys.
Yeah, we're going to have the answer to that question in just a few minutes. We do have the player match histories, and we decided to talk about the deck breakdown after the match, because now we're running a little bit late with the main event. Those two guys are really good at playing for time. If we're ever going to start handing out slow play warnings to commentators, those two might be not exactly in the clear. So with that, let's get ready for the last round of the day, round number 8, between Federico Zoppini and Lorenzo Roma. Let's take you guys over to the feature match table. So here you see him on the left, Lorenzo. As we said, he's a very successful Duel Links player on top of other things. Federico on the other side has been very successful at the YCS competitive scene in the past. Took a little bit of a break from the game and then came back. Still the player that he used to be, very, very successful. I think he's never won a big event. He's been in the finals like twice or even 3 times, something like that.
Well, the first event that you win is always going to come at some point, so maybe this weekend will be his. If we look at the deck lists here, Federico's got the list for the mirror match. He's main decking those Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries, which could be absolutely huge here.
Wow.
And we see that he's won the die roll.
And he's got the Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries in his opening hand, together with a Namespace and Aquadolphin. So he even has ways to play around hand traps. And there are hand traps in Lorenzo's hand, with 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Overall, it doesn't look like Lorenzo does have that much gas in the tank here with that opening hand, or am I mistaken? Is it the Taketombog? Is it going to get him somewhere?
The Taketombog by itself isn't doing anything, but with the Instant Fusion is actually quite a powerful combo. You can use Instant Fusion to special summon Dragoness the Wicked Knight from your extra deck, and then, as it's a wind, you are able to then special summon that Taketombog from your hand, make your MX Saber Invoker, and go from there.
All right, but it's a bit too early to talk about that because it's still Federico's turn. A very, very impressive streak, by the way, by Matthew Bell. I think he butchered every single name that he said today. In 8 rounds, he went 8 for 8. It's Federico. There is no R at the beginning of the name. It's not Federico, it's Federico. Or just short Fede, which is what most of the other players are calling him, from what I heard.
So you see he's wearing the Federer hat as well.
Yeah, he's embracing the role now. There's an F on it even. Maybe it's his own brand or something.
Roger Federer branding.
Is it?
Yeah, RF.
See, I didn't know that. I guess I'm not enough of a tennis fan. Doesn't look like an R to me. Oh, if you just look at the left part of the letter. Okay. Okay. Are you a tennis fan?
Not especially, no, but I've seen some, and he always wears his own brand.
Some Wimbledon finals or something. Okay. So where's Fede going to go here?
Well, he's just had the effect of his Isolde shut down by the Ash Blossom, but he's searched 3 cards already, and he's able to activate the Goki rematch if he chooses, but that will turn off his Ghost Reaper. So instead, just chooses to pass it. He feels like he's confident with the Ghost Reaper in hand.
Right. It's interesting because normally Goki is not known, or actually if you're playing against Goki, you're not known to just say, okay, I'm just going to sit behind one card and just going to risk it, because it can put so much pressure on the field so easily. So that Marauding Captain, is that going to make... That's definitely helping for Lorenzo here.
Well, the play that we mentioned the previous turn, he would still have had access to that instant fusion Takatomborg through the MX Saber Invoker, but by adding the Marauding Captain into the mix, he has another warrior on his field as backup. And we just saw the Ghost Reaper used there. I assume he will be taking out all copies of Isolde from Lorenzo's extra deck. He will reveal the second copy from his.
Right.
And then Lorenzo forced on to play with the remaining 12 cards, no, even 11. 11 cards left in his extra deck after summoning Dragoness and Invoker.
That seems like a pretty big move on Lorenzo's part. We can maybe look at those guys' player match histories quickly. Both of them are undefeated, something we should definitely mention. And Federico Zoppini went against Mermail, then Sky Striker without anything else, Sky Striker, Trickstar, Mech Knight. Again, Sky Striker, Trickstar.
Are they both undefeated, or
Yes,
are they
yes.
X1? I thought Federico lost his round 3 match.
You were actually indeed correct. He's X1, 6-1. So True Draco, again Sky Striker, Trickstar, and again Sky Striker without anything else. So a lot of Sky Strikers against him, sometimes with Trickstar, sometimes without. Once with Mech Knights, and 2 Rogue decks at least with Mermail and True Draco for Federico Zoppini. So let's compare that to Mr. Roma's match history. He played against some other deck, some Rogue deck, Sky Striker, Trickstar. He lost actually in the second round already. It's not good for his tiebreaker, but he still rebound from that. Then Goki, True Draco, ABC, and last round against Zoe, Weber, Sky Striker, Trickstar. So both of these guys, like we said, 6-1 with the Goki deck.
And they've seen a reasonable amount of rogue matchups throughout the tournament so far.
Yes, it definitely looks like they had to come prepared and not just test the most popular decks here. All right, how happy is Lorenzo going to be with this turn? It's not quite done yet.
He's going to be very happy now that he's able to steal and use the effect of his opponent's Isolde.
After he's been stripped of them. Sorry, the other way around.
Yes, so Lorenzo loses both of his Isoldes to the effect of Ghost Reaper, but that's not a problem. Just have the monster reborn, and I will take yours.
Turnabout is fair play. Such a sportsman. And again, this is one of the things that people often say about Federico Zoppini. He is not known for his poker face. You can see the annoyance on his face. He's not happy how this game is unfolding so far, for understandable reasons.
Yeah, you don't expect your opponent to be special summoning Octostretch from the deck by pitching their Phoenix Blade after you've Ghost Reapered them.
Yeah, none of that sounds like what your game plan is usually looking like.
And suddenly, from being in a position where the most unfortunate of openings has happened to Lorenzo, he's looking like he might be the favorite again here.
Yes. And Federico, he's not happy about this. Like I said, you can see it in his face, and it might already be a situation where Lorenzo can pull so far ahead that Lorenzo is going to decide to call it a day for the first game at least and access his side deck instead.
Yeah.
Bit too early to tell, yo.
Lorenzo is here being forced into some slightly non-standard versions of the combo. Typically, you're used to starting off with Isolde in the extra monster zone with a Nightmare Goblin beside it, and then you put 2 more monsters on the board to summon the Firewall. But here, he's having to use Isolde in a zone it's not usually presented in. And then He will eventually get his way back into the firewall, as is usually the play. But he's not quite sure which order he wants to make his moves here.
So he needs to improvise here. I think that's one of the skills that separate the novice duelists from the experts, from the veterans.
So he just linked away more monsters than he needed to there. He could have kept a monster in the central monster zone adjacent to the firewall, just using Isolde, Ibli, and the Marauding Captain. But
what do you think the strategy is here?
It felt like that might have been a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not entirely sure, but it looked like he was a bit under pressure. He hadn't taken a move for too long, and he just wanted to make sure that he doesn't get called up for a slow play.
Right. So that might be something that we could potentially talk about in the post-match analysis with our analysts that have all the numbers and all the stats. More than we've ever had. I think in the future we're going to be able to animate them in some way and throw up some graphics on the screen, and then it's going to be even cooler for you guys at home to make sense of all of that information.
Yeah, if we could have visuals for win rates of decks and players, that would be a really cool feature.
And as soon as we got that, of course, we're going to add it to the written coverage, which is a good shout out to Rudy. He has been busy taking down notes and basically conducting interviews with the various national champions that we couldn't get our hands on yesterday. So you guys, if you ever feel like, okay, not much is happening right now, you can head over to the written coverage and find out what the national champions brought to the table this weekend, what they think about the tournament, and even more like deck features and other articles.
Yeah, so Lorenzo's just sort of recovering back into a position where he was more comfortable. He's got his firewall set up in the zone that it's usually placed to, and he's just going to go through his chain from here, summoning monsters adjacent to it and letting them all fall to the grave one by one.
Right.
Normal summon of Ibli here. I don't know if he has anything in the grave to summon back with it.
Is this one of those decks where you make one mistake and you're done, or is it somewhat forgiving?
It depends on how many combo extenders you have in your hand. Generally, each mistake that you make can be compensated by an extender card in hand, but if you don't have those extender cards, you have to play flawlessly.
Right. Speaking of flawless play, it appears that Christopher Nielsen is already done with his last round. My guess would be that he also crushed his last opponent for the day and just
He has a habit of doing so.
Yes, he just went undefeated today, is what I'm guessing here. All right.
We'll certainly be seeing more of him tomorrow.
So a soul charge is waiting in Lorenzo Roma's hand, together with Gouki Suprex. And it's going to be hard to keep in mind that the clock is going to be important in that mirror match, especially if both of those players play those decks where the turns can take so long.
Yes, particularly if we're forced into more situations like this of non-standard combos.
Mm-hmm.
I expect that they will both know exactly how to resolve their typical turn one play if they're not interrupted, but with things like Ghost Reaper coming into the mix, it forces a sort of ad hoc interpretation of how do I get to a sensible board from here.
Yeah. What am I supposed to do right now? And is he going to give up his battle phase? Is he going to use Soul Charge, or is he going to hang on to that?
The Soul Charge is typically the most impactful the sooner that you can get it down. You don't want to hold it in hand for a later turn. When you get to a more simplified game state, a card like Soul Charge doesn't have such a huge impact because you need to be using your battle phase at that stage in the game. Whereas in the earlier turns, you can use Soul Charge to build a board and prevent your opponent from using their cards.
Right. So, but Lorenzo did pass play, and it's back to Federico Zoppini, who is starting his turn with the Neo-Spatian Aqua Dolphin.
We'll discard a card to reveal that there are no low attack points in Lorenzo's hand.
It's quite interesting, like a card with 600 attack that can just pick apart the opponent's hand and get all the important cards out of it. because all of those hand traps are not exactly known to have sporting decent attack values.
No, a lot of zeros going on there. But this time the Aqua Dolphin instead just dealing 500 damage to Federico. Yeah, looking at the board here, it really feels like Lorenzo must have made some miscalculation along the way. It doesn't feel like that's the board that he would have been going for.
Yeah, when plan A fails, you need to come up with plan B, and it seems like just there he didn't go for it. But also take note, Federico, he was ushering him to play a little bit faster here and there, and that might have been important because he might have rushed his opponent into making a misplay.
Yeah, it's possible. I think Lorenzo may have been feeling the pressure of having the judges watching over him at the feature match table as well.
And it just looked like the judge was actually talking to Federico and saying, hey, you need to move a little bit faster. And his response was like, me? Which is kind of typical, because when you are doing your turn, while you're playing your cards, you don't really notice how time is passing. And then as soon as you're not able to do anything and you need to watch your opponent, the clock, you can basically hear the ticking of the clock. It goes, duck. And you're just like, why is nothing happening? Why are you playing so slowly? So yeah, interesting match between these two veterans. So you, of course, have your experience as well. What is the most important thing in a Goki mirror match?
A large part of it comes down to the die roll. Obviously, both players want to be able to go first and form their extra link in an empty board. But things get interesting when the hand traps come into play.
We haven't seen that here. Like in this match, we didn't see the perfect opening of one play. It is actually the second thing that you're talking about. Yeah,
and there was it really went to and fro a little bit with initially the
Ash Blossom,
and then the Ghost Reaper. I realize now that I don't think Lorenzo could have used his Soul Charge. Did he use his Battle Phase to clear the Isolde on Federico's side of the field?
Trying to remember.
I don't recall. I think we were talking about their path through the tournament so far at that point.
Yeah, he might have. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah.
But I feel like if he could have used that Soul Charge, he probably would have done.
And now one of the topics, of course, in the chat is also, would you have messed up that play when you were sitting in Lorenzo Roma's position? And one of the all-time greats, Jeff Jones, is coming to his defense and says, well, he had to do the combo in an unorthodox way, and that's why he doesn't blame him for messing up. So it seems like even when you do a lot and lots of playtesting, even if you're going into that special zone together with Christopher Nielsen, there are situations in the tournament that you did not exactly prepare for.
Yeah, you can't prepare for a sequence of events like that with the Winter Cherries and the Monster Reborn for the opponent's Isolde. There's so many factors at play in which zones you place your monsters to and how that will affect the combo resolution. You plan everything that you need to do if you're going first into an empty board, and the best players will even plan how they map out those turns when your opponent has a hand trap, and at what point is your break points where you can recover, what extenders you need. But this is more than one level of abstraction from the standard combo, so it's not something that anyone will have been able to practice, and coming up with those interactions on the go, on the feature match table, live, under pressure, with the lights bearing down on you,
is the difference maker.
Yeah.
That is, I wholeheartedly agree. This is where we can see who's going to be the master of the game and who's going to be able to win the European Championship, maybe. All right.
So we see the effect of Ningirsu there coming in very strong, being able to break through Nightmare Goblin's protection from targeting.
So many cards in hand for Federico Zoppini here. Still after committing a couple of cards to the field, but the same can be said about Lorenzo Roma's hand with the Soul Charge, with the Gouki Suprex and the rematch.
Yeah, just having a Soul Charge in hand, if Lorenzo is left with a significant sum of life points, he's able to instantly just bounce back and summon his own board again. Federico, again, not quite certain of where to go from here. The game hasn't planned out in a standard way. Checks his hand.
Yeah.
It's an interesting choice of placing the unicorn in that extra monster zone. He could have taken a draw from the effect if he'd placed it adjacent to his Ningersu.
So Federico is doing a lot of searching this turn, as always in this deck, and of course also a lot of accessing of his extra deck, all of which takes time, and time is of the essence, really, with just 22 minutes to go in this match. I would be, I mean, if somebody wins 2-0, okay, that can happen. But if we are going to a third game, I would be surprised if we're not running into time, to be honest.
Yeah, it does feel like we might not even have time to get much past game one with if there keeps being all of this interaction, non-standard combos, both players feeling like their opponent is playing slowly when in fact they're just taking such a long time to think about all of the interactions.
Yeah. All right, Federico figured it out, conducted his search.
We see the unicorn just linked away for the mermaid to trigger that firewall and get the link climb to begin.
This is the moment when you start to miss Trickster. When you're like...
Nope.
Yeah, nice setup there. Where you're just like, yeah, I think like some burn damage and firewall loop would go a long way here.
I like watching these guys sweat under the lights. What can they come up with?
Yeah, yeah. And he has some callbacks to earlier featured matches we had today, and players are saying my favorite round was the Marcus Bäckström from Sweden with Burning Abyss. It was a pleasure to watch Thomas Rose call that match.
It was not a pleasure to call that match.
Yeah, it was a challenge.
It was a challenge.
I would say it was a challenge, and we overcame the challenge. We mastered it. It can always be a challenge. Sometimes it's challenging to watch 10-minute turns.
Yeah.
And
it's always easier for us sat on the desk looking at these plays and saying, oh no, that's not what I would have done, but
right.
It's very different when you're sat at the table.
Yes, that is true. Especially on that table, not just any table, but that table, the feature match table, with all the bright lights pointed towards it. And this weekend, for the first time ever, they're playing out in the open and everybody can watch them live.
Yeah, and not only can we watch them live, but we can see what cards they have and their opponents.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to look forward to, if you're somebody like Lorenzo Roma and you're not 100% sure about the plays you made, you just leave the stage and immediately there will be like 5 friends that are just calling you out on all the things that you misplayed. It's not exactly relaxing and setting you up for success in the later rounds of the tournament.
Yeah, fortunately at least, if there is a round that you have to misplay in a tournament, this is the one that you would want to be at.
Yes.
You can take stock, you can go away, you can go and have some food, have some sleep, and come back fresh in the morning. It would be a much tougher loss to take through your own mistakes, say at round 7, when you still have to fight through another round before you get to go and rest.
This is more than anything else almost like an exhibition match for both of these guys. They're both used to playing under pressure. They are both undefeated right now. They're both gonna be in day 2 tomorrow. And for them it's just trying to secure for themselves the best possible position to advance to the top 64. Also, if you're in a different time zone, I know this is always one cause of confusion. It is 9 p.m. at the moment. We're going to be starting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So just set your alarm clock to 12 hours in the future. Whatever time zone you're in, that's going to work. And then you can join us tomorrow bright and early for the start of day 2 of the main event of the European Championship 2018.
So we've just heard in the background, time on the round has been called for the main event for most of the duelists in this European Championships. That is it for day 1.
Yes.
Just this feature match and a few matches that will have gone to time left in the main event still playing.
Yeah, you guys get 18 bonus minutes. And those 18 bonus minutes are going to be feeling really, really cool if you're a fan of the Italian players. Federico Zoppini taking the first game, I wouldn't say by storm, but in convincing fashion. And now it's going to be time for the side decks. You mentioned it. Federico was already bringing some of the cards that you usually or traditionally find in the side deck to his main deck. They also played a role in the first game, even though it wasn't exactly what he was hoping for.
I think we see one copy of Droll and Lockbird in the side deck for Federico, as well as 2 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Those will definitely be making their way in. Cyframe Gear Gamma, also a likely suspect to be joining the roster. But for Lorenzo, he has the possibility to bring in Topologic Gumblar Dragon. He might be trying to go for that hand loop that we saw previously in a Goki feature match. Lorenzo also has access to Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. A possible side deck candidate there for this match, because he can bring it in. If he gets hand trapped, he'll have some way of interacting with Federico's turn if he passes with a small board presence.
But the other piece of that puzzle was Kaiki the Unity Star.
No, Lorenzo has opted not to play that. He does, however, have the Phantom Knights of Shade Brigandine, which is a monster that he can special summon during the opponent's turn in a similar fashion, but possibly less searchable than the Kaiki.
Right. So maybe he didn't know about the new option for this deck, and he just continued to go with what he was used to.
He had been testing using Fairy Tale Snow as an option to special summon during the opponent's turn. We saw previously Goki decks utilized Curious the Lightsworn Dominion with Nightmare Griffin to set Imperial Order on the first turn. That had moved into a stage where people could use it to send snow and trigger the second effect of Topologic Gunblar. I know that Lorenzo was initially playing Fairy Tale Snow, but it looks like he's dropped it from his list now. He does have 3 copies of Exchange in his hand, though, and I'm not entirely sure what those are there for.
Maybe we get to see it. Maybe it's something we can talk about after the match, if we happen to have him for the post-match interview. We might end up with a draw, then we might get both players at the price of 1. But too early to talk about that. It's now time for Lorenzo to kick things off in the second game. And what sort of interruption does Federico bring to the table?
A Droll and Lockbird with nothing to stop it.
Okay, not too bad.
Not bad at all. That's exactly the outcome that Federico was hoping for playing second.
Yeah, there it goes. And Federico must be happy, even though he's not giving it away. And Lorenzo can't be happy right now.
No, Lorenzo will be a little bit frustrated with this. He may choose possibly to send 2 equip spells here, enabling him to special summon a Headbat. He already has Octastretch on the field, so he won't want to double up on that effect. No, he's just going straight for the Octastretch. Perhaps he intends to link one away despite the effect of Droll and Lockbird.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. He's accessing his extra deck and thinking about what to get here. And then just going back to, nope, don't need my extra deck right now, at least not.
I don't know what end field Goki aims to achieve in a situation like this. Oh, he has just passed on those 3 monsters, which I would have instinctively thought that he might have rather have taken the Headbat there. But I don't imagine that it's going to make a great deal of difference. Zoppini has all of the combo pieces that he needs, and he's not playing into any hand traps at this point.
Yeah, he needs to feel good about his chances. He might not be 100% aware that there's nothing that his opponent has, but he's going to find out sooner rather than later when he just goes on, summons, nothing's coming, and then he's like, okay, I can take this.
Yeah, there are some slight changes to the standard combo for Zoppini here. Given that he has the Ibli in hand already, he won't be able to summon that from deck with his Nightmare Mermaid. But there are ways that you can play around and mitigate that, so I don't think that it will prevent Federico from amassing a full board of Link monsters here.
Right. Yeah, so chances are looking pretty good for the Italian against the German with the Italian name.
Yeah, Lorenzo not looking all too comfortable with how the match is progressing at this point.
Yeah. But as you pointed out, if he's watching this back later, he's going to be like, okay, I got a whole night to deal with this one match. I can take away whatever learnings there are in this game, and then tomorrow I'm going to be bright and early, showing up here and able to still advance to the top 64.
If I were him, I wouldn't even watch the match tonight. It will still be there on Monday after the tournament is finished.
Yeah.
If I myself watched the match, I would be frustrated about things that I didn't see, but he needs to realize that there's no way that anyone would see those plays effectively under that sort of pressure, and that it's not standard things that he's messing up. He needs to put himself in a position where he can go into his next match and make all of the right plays for the normal situations, and not worry about the fact that he didn't see an optimal play in a high-pressure environment with time constraints.
Yeah, because all of that happens. All of that is part of the game, and you can't beat yourself up about it too much. Otherwise, you're not going to get very far, actually, if you just keep beating yourself up. All right. So again, Federico Zoppini, move after move after move, summon after summon. He's connecting all the dots, basically. This is like one of these paint by numbers games.
Yeah, this is very much the standard Gouki combo opening procedures, where he'll go to the Firewall Dragon adjacent to the Nightmare Goblin, and then link away the Goblin up into the top extra monster zone, triggering the Firewall effect.
Yeah, so most of that pretty standard plays, unless you're going to see some big upset or some big surprise. But judging by the hand of Lorenzo Roma, no surprises there. Same can be said for his field. Yeah, and even for Federico Zoppini's field. Even there, we don't really see any gigantic surprises so far. He's just going through the motions.
Strange that we see Federico just throwing away an Underclock Taker from his extra deck. I'm not entirely sure what was that. Oh, okay. So he needs the Underclock Taker into his graveyard to be able to summon adjacent to the Ibli. He wasn't just choosing to send it from his extra deck to the graveyard for no purpose.
But is he going to get it back?
And now he'll be able to start making the plays with the Firewall Dragon.
It's about time. It's like the second time only that we've seen this card really in action this weekend. Although half the time the opponent just decided to call it a day when it hit play.
Well, we've seen Firewall Dragon come out both for the Gouki players and in the Trickstar match. We saw
we saw the loop, yeah. But very often, if the Firewall Dragon starts to do his thing, we see a lot of players just shuffling up and be like, yeah, okay.
It generally means that the game is over.
Right.
It doesn't look like this duel is going any way other than Federico's.
Yeah, very commanding performance so far.
Did we see the effect of Underclock Taker used at all whilst it was briefly on the field?
It certainly didn't look that way.
He may want to... No, he may or may not have used it. There's a good chance that we just missed it, as it would have happened very quickly. But,
yeah, I mean, considering that Lorenzo is still on 8,000 life points.
Well, the Underclock Taker doesn't directly deal damage, but it would impact the stats of the monsters on the field.
Yeah. Right. Just like, but didn't he attack? And then I'm like, oh, right, he's not at the battle phase yet.
No,
we're still in the setup stage here.
We're about 10 minutes into main phase 1.
Yeah, we're only 10 minutes into main phase 1. That means we're still building. Okay. No, it's not quite it, but it almost looked like Lorenzo Roma was ready to pack up here. I think he's going to torture himself a little bit more and watch it go on for a little bit more. How much damage are we talking about here?
There certainly would have been enough for lethal at some point, and I'd be surprised if we don't still have enough for lethal on this current board state.
Yeah, we do. Just too many monsters with more than 2,000 attack, and it's just getting worse with even more monsters hitting play.
Yeah, we see the Divine Sword Phoenix Blade being equipped to boost attack points.
This is why it's so good. And that is it. Gigantic attack to wrap things up for day one of the, I was about to say YCS, no, it's the World Championship qualifier, the European Championship 2018, with Federico Zoppini coming out on top and beating Lorenzo Roma for a perfect record on day one.
He did still lose round 3.
He's almost a perfect record in round 1.
A very good record on day 1.
All right, so talking about records and stats, I got something else that nobody can argue with. This is the deck breakdown at the start of the day. Let's take a look at that, guys. Let's bring it up. So, going into the tournament, Sky Striker Trickster is the deck to beat. It's the most popular choice by many of these players. And then what's interesting is we don't have like a clear number 2 or clear number 3. We have a couple of decks that all share the next few spots, with Sky Striker without anything else, Goki, Sky Striker Trickster, Magnite, and so on and so on and so on. Let's look at round number 8. This is not after round number 8. This is prior to round 8. The title is a tiny bit misleading here. Here we can see that Goki is now the second most popular deck, and it started out at the beginning of the day as the third most popular deck. Also, Goki was 160 players. Out of those, 92 are still playing, so that's roughly 2/3. Whereas 200 out of the 350 from the Sky Striker Trickster. So in terms of conversion rates, they are almost identical, these two decks, Goki and Sky Striker Trickster. The other decks cannot say the same. The pure Sky Striker, for example, did not manage to put 66% into round number 8. Lots of players that played this deck had dropped out of the tournament. And then the other interesting story here is that we got almost no movement in terms of what the popular decks are. In fact, apart from Sky Striker Pure and Goki, who swapped places, the entire rest of the field stayed the same.
Yeah, that's remarkable. It suggests
I think that never happened before.
Progression.
Yeah.
But of course, every player can continue throughout the entirety of day 1 at this event. It might be a much more telling story once we get to the beginning of day 2,
absolutely,
where some players are forcibly removed from the event, that we then see which players had just been continuing day 1 because they wanted to, and which players had actually been playing through and doing very successfully.
So there is a chance that all of these Sky Striker Trickster players that are still in the tournament, not all of them, but many of them, are at the end of the field, and now they're getting cut. And all of a sudden, the picture tomorrow morning is going to be very, very different from what we see right now.
And I think we'll see particularly a huge hit to the percentage of other decks that remain in the tournament at the start of tomorrow.
Anything else would be a gigantic upset and surprise. Let's bring up the country breakdown very quickly. This is what it looked like at the beginning of the day. Big surprise there, United Kingdom in second place. Let's just compare that to round number 8, and it looks like United Kingdom lost that second place to Italy and France. Germany, of course, still the most represented faction, but out of those 600 players that came, only less than 300 remain, so less than 50%. Very different story for Italy, of course. 156 showed up, 110 are still in the tournament, and we did predict that at the start of the day. We did say that Italy has one of the best conversion rates, together with Greece, which is true, again, because Greece nowhere to be found among the top 7 nations at the start of the day. Now they are sneaking into that country breakdown, and there's a good chance that they're going to move up in relative numbers some more. With that, guys, thank you so much for watching our coverage today. We really hope you liked the new things that we had. We are signing off for now, but wait, there's more, because we got the last post-match analysis of the day with Luke and Matt. Thank you very much, and see you tomorrow morning.
Hello and welcome back for the final post-match analysis for today. We have Federico Zoppini here.
Yeah.
You're definitely here. Yeah. He's promised us he's not going to leave us like Christopher Nielsen did.
Yeah, Chris, why don't you want to be our friend?
Yeah. Anyway, we have someone better now.
Yeah, Federico, congratulations on that win.
Thank you, really.
That was an excellent pair of games. Just to highlight something of that game, we saw how you visibly reacted when he played Monster Reborn on the Isolde. It's like, okay, I've got the cherries.
I was like, oh my god, it was the only out to cherries.
Yeah, it's like, I think I've got this. And he's like, Reborn is like,
not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
That's why Monster Reborn was sat on the Third Unlimited list for quite a while. It's a pretty strong card.
precisely for that. Soul Charge, not so useful in that situation. Take your opponent's Isolde.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
exactly.
also had the sword charge in end. So it was a really bad position.
Yeah.
But
He had it all. It was all going for him. So, a lot of players are interested in their win rates for the past season. So we have your win rate for the past season.
Would you like to know?
you
So
want-
I
you
feel
wanna
like you
know?
have to
I
ask,
didn't
like the
play
gender
so
of
much
the baby.
last,
No,
last season.
but you played some pretty high-profile tournaments.
The number's pretty high. You might want to just brag about
it's
it.
a big number. It's a big number.
Okay,
Don't
okay.
worry. It's just under 70% win rate.
Yeah, it's not terrible.
No, that's really good.
That's really high.
70% is really good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 70% is really good.
Players that go to Worlds are generally around
But
70%.
it's only for YCS and
YCS's regionals and nationals as well. Yeah. So
Okay.
and you've played 2 YCSs and then your nationals, that's pretty good.
Yeah, probably
For-
the national.
To have
is,
like a 70
Yeah,
win
bring it
percent.
down a
it's
little
bad,
bit. Oh, maybe we should just delete that one and then it'll be even higher, right?
yeah.
But small number of tournaments, so you know. So
Yeah, that's fine.
So, is there any other than the Monster Reborn, any standout moments for you that's happened not only in the feature match but just today in general? Do you think you've had any difficult matches or really fun matches? Anything that was special for you that happened today?
Today. Honestly, I thought that I would be against many Goki, but
Okay.
this was my first mirror match, and I play
Wow, really?
mostly against Trickstar,
Yeah.
and I play only Trickstar and maybe one Mermail.
Wow.
The match against Mermail was really cool. Because I won the dice roll, but I super bricked. Then his super combo. Then what happened? Game 2 I stopped him. Game 2. Yeah, I stopped him with the Dun Traps game. I combo. I did a full combo with the extra links.
Yeah.
And game 3 I stopped with but. I stopped in a really cool way, but I don't remember.
Oh, what a shame!
Yeah, in fact.
You were holding us on. I was
Yeah,
so
but I was
excited
waiting
to hear
for
that.
I was waiting for the punchline.
Yeah, exactly.
After
it's very tiring.
We've just
Yeah.
been standing around all day. We
in
get
fact.
it. We know that's actually much harder to play that.
Yeah, exactly. And the
Yeah,
thing
but
is,
at least it was the only not Trickstar
yeah.
matchup.
Well, do you know what? We'll have you on tomorrow, hopefully, during the top cut, and then you can tell us about what happened when you remember about the Mermail matchup.
Yeah, of course.
Are you looking forward to Tokyo?
Yeah,
by the way?
I hope I will beat.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Japan before? Are you looking forward to it?
No, I was in Japan like 3 times,
okay.
but not for this game.
Okay.
For something else.
Sure.
Yeah. So are you do you think you really have a chance this weekend?
I hope.
You hope
Because,
so.
You've had a really good day one.
Like 5 years ago, I lost in top 8.
Yeah.
When top 4 gives the qualification,
Yeah.
and was really really sad. I think it's the worst thing that can happen to lose in that top 8.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
All right.
I want my revenge.
Yeah. So you as you said, you're getting pretty tired. So we're gonna let you go. Thank you very much for
Thank
the
you.
interview.
Yeah, well played, man.
Best,
Yeah, thank
best
you.
of luck tomorrow.
Yeah, I hope I will return here tomorrow.
Let's hope so.
Okay.
Thank you, man. Don't be late.
So that was Federico Zoppini.
You're good. You're good.
So let's have a little reflect on what happened today. So we saw a lot of matches.
We saw a lot of matches,
Yeah.
a lot of high-level players that we had on the stream.
Yeah.
The number one deck going into this weekend, what everyone was anticipating was Goki, based on the success from the NAWCQ.
Yeah.
And it has shown up. When we took
Yeah.
a look at the stats, it was
I've-
mostly just over 50% of
I was just
everything.
about to say that there's one person who has seen more games than we have, and that's our stats tool.
That is true. We can actually give you guys some actual in-depth analysis. So the end of day one, actual win rates of decks throughout the tournament, and what has the highest overall win percentage. Bearing in mind that will be reflected if there was like a small number of decks that did really well.
Yeah.
Like the time that there was like 4 Gravekeeper decks in a tournament and they all ended up in the top cut or something.
Yeah, exactly. So
Then the stats look massively inflated. But
Yeah, also the fact that if there's a couple of decks in here that not many people have played, then we have a very small number of matches to actually draw from. But the highest win ratio deck for day one was actually...
Take a guess. Take a guess.
Yeah, okay, well, take a guess.
in
Take
the
a guess.
chat.
If you're on YouTube, post a comment. What do you think the top deck is?
Some guys write World Chalice. I know he has.
Yeah.
I can't even see the chat right
Well,
now.
of course it is. Thomas, our judge, is a massive fan of World Chalice. He's going to watch this back. He's going to be like, I was sat right there. But yeah, so now he knows he can go comment World Chalice. But the top deck was actually Gem Knights.
Gem Knight FTK. How many was being played in the tournament?
Yeah, so I've not got the number of decks being played in the tournament. I can add that tomorrow, but the number of matches was just 45, so that's a very small number.
Oh, we know. We checked this earlier. I'm trying to remember how many players there was. 9.
Yeah, 9.
There was only 9, so this is quite a small sample size.
Yeah, so some of them must have dropped, obviously, because if we only have 45 games, unless there's been some mirror matches, that's highly unlikely, but quite a few of them must have dropped, yeah. But yeah, 60%. And then followed up by, we have Goki at 55%. All of the other meta decks, so 55% for Goki, and then Sky Striker Trickstar at 56. Sky Striker Trickstar's had 1,543 games.
That's a staggering number of games.
Yeah, whereas
so
Goki's
there you
had
are,
800.
guys. You got a 56% win ratio and across 8 rounds. Of course, we could bring up all the stats about the individual matchups, for example, what your Goki matchup is, what your Gem Knight matchup is, and stuff like that. We've got these stats. We'll get a bit of it and we'll put it up on the coverage site through Rudy.
Yeah.
So you
That's
guys
just
can
interesting to think, right? That's really interesting to think about.
Yeah, it is, absolutely.
Going into this, obviously, the thing is we got 2 stats that we've been showing today, the players' win rates and then the actual deck win rates. And those kind of clash in a way because the deck win rates don't think about the player and the player's win rates don't think about the deck. So together, those are quite good statistics.
They give you quite a neutral view, and you can stop taking your friend's word for it when he just gives you random stats
percentage.
about, the matchup's like 65%. Yeah, just stop accepting it. Just say,
it's like
no, this isn't good enough.
Versus blah, blah, blah.
It's like, actually, no, you can just take a look on the coverage blog when we've got the article put together, and you guys can actually see what the overall, and we got a huge sample. For example, that's like 1,500 Sky Striker Trickstar decks. So that's actually a pretty accurate representation of what your match win percentage is going to be.
There's a lot of games to kind of sample it over. I'm sure that even Christopher Nielsen and JY Sharif didn't play that many games in their 2 weeks training period.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah, okay, maybe they did.
It's these two.
It is, yeah, that's true. Okay, I'm going to crunch the numbers. I'm going to figure out how many games they would have to have played. Like in the 2 weeks, how many games per minute they would have to have played, and let's see what happens.
No. See, as I said, the mathematician. I don't even want to know.
I feel like
the effort of knowing.
I want to know.
The effort of knowing is just not worth it. If they just said they played 10K, I'll be like, I'm not even going to Google that. Yeah, I believe you.
Yeah, that's true.
When somebody gives you the reason penguins' feet don't freeze, I just don't care enough to Google it and look it up. I just go, yeah, I believe you.
I didn't know that was a thing. And see, this is the difference. I want to go and Google why that happens.
Yeah, I don't have time. Well, I have time. I'm just not going to spend it that way.
Well, you guys can go and Google why penguins' feet don't freeze, but this is still a Yu-Gi-Oh! Stream, and we will be back tomorrow with 3 rounds of Swiss remaining. Is that right?
That is correct. 3 rounds of Swiss, and then we have a top cut.
And then top 64.
That is correct. We have a slightly larger cut for the WCQ, where then it becomes a single elimination tournament where we try and narrow down to the final 2 participants who will be joining us. Or rather joining you this year in Japan for the World Championships.
Yep.
Our round starts at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. We're just coming up to 9:30 over here in Germany now. So it's about 11 and a half hours.
Yeah, so if you set your clock for in 11 and a half hours, wherever you are in the world, whether it be the US or if you are watching from Japan, then...
Ohayou gozaimasu.
Yeah, is it morning there? It probably is. It probably is morning there.
How do you say it? I've learned this. It's Atarashi roundu wa... let me remember. Kyuji Gogo desu. I think that's right.
Nailed it.
Or I told him it's 9 p.m. and they're going to miss it and be mad at me.
Well,
one of the two. One or
the other. So, anyway, we are going to be back in around 11 and a half hours to conclude the European Championships of 2018 here in Berlin. We'll see you guys soon.
Take care, guys. Good night.